Hello everyone, this is the part 2 of Drizzle ORM series. So in today's video, we are going to learn how we can define schemas and relationship using Drizzle ORM. So before we get started, let's install some dependencies, the .env dependency, so that we can create our own .env file here. Okay, for that, npmi.env, and then in the root directory of your project, create a .env file. Here we will just create a database URL equal, copy the database URL from db.ts file, this one, and then we can use this database URL in our db.ts file as well as in the migrator.ts file. Okay, so for that, let's create a folder called config. Here create a file called config.ts, import .env from .env, then do .env.config, then export const config. It will be an object. Here we will say database URL equal not equal colon process .env, and copy the name from here. Now we can use this config in our migrator or db.ts file. Let's rename it to env config. This is more readable. Now let's use this env config in our migrator file first. So import something from source slash config here env database URL. We'll do the same in our db.ts file. With config, we'll auto import. Then we will take this env config and database URL. So we are done with the env configuration. After that, we will define all the schemas for our blog application, like blog schema, user schema, role schema, category schema, etc. Okay, so inside the schema folder, we can replace everything. So let's keep this called user schema, name users. Also, this is fine. After that, we'll have an ID. This is fine. And here, instead of int, in previous video we see how we can define auto increment ID. Now this time we will see how we can define the CUID or EUID like barker type ID. Okay, for that we'll replace it with barker. We'll call it ID. We'll give it a length around 50. Remove auto increment, just make it primary key. Okay, so our ID is done. Then we will have full name. And it will also be not null. Then we have email, this is fine. And we have password, this is also fine. And here instead of role enum type, we will define our separate table for this. Okay, so let's remove it for now. Let's define an age. It will be int type, and this could be null, so I don't mention not null here because it could be null. And after that, we'll have a gender. Here we will define a enum, call it the column name as gender, and then we'll call male or female. We will, and also this should not be nullable, so we'll put non null. After that, we have created it as previously we did timestamp. This time we will do using date time. So instead of timestamp, let's import date time. Put date time here, it will be created at, and in date time we don't have this default now available till now in Drizzle ORM, so we'll use different way. Okay, so for that, call it only default. Here we will use SQL, import it from Drizzle ORM. Okay, then we will keep backtick. Here we will define current timestamp. Okay, So this is how we will define the created at using date type. We don't need the updated now, we'll use updated in block schema. Okay, so what we have, like we have ID, full name, email, password, age, gender, and created at. And what else we need? We need the role slack here. So let's do it a little bit later after defining the role schema. And here we will define some type. So we can call it type user. What this will have, it will have this ID, full name, email, like all the property of the user. Okay, so how you will get this type from this user schema, we will call infer model, import it from Drizzle ORM, will pass user schema, not user schema, it will be type of user schema. Second parameter we can pass select or insert. So we'll give here select. So just duplicate this and we will call I create user. Here instead of select we will pass insert. Now hover on this user, you will see we have a type, ID, full name, email, password, age, gender, and created it. And if you hover on this create user type, you will see like all of them again, but this time you can see we have this age and this created at are undefined because they are not required for create a new user. Okay, so that's the thing. So we are done with our user schema. Let's define our role schema. So we'll create another file called role.schema.ts and we'll port const role schema MySQL table from Drizzle ORM / MySQL core, import it from here, give it a name called roles, then we will define our tables. First of all, we will have a slack here for the role, let's say admin or user, something like that. Okay, for that we will call it marker, give it a name called slack, length called let's say 25, then make it primary key. Okay, so this is a slack. We'll have a title, the title, make it non-nullable. So up to this is fine. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to connect this role with this user because each user will have a role. So let's define it here at the bottom. We'll call it role slack. So each user will have a field called role slack where it will be actually coming from this slack, the role table. We'll call it varchar role underscore slack length 25, same as role slack, this primary key 25, because this data will be actually belong to here for the relation, so it will be similar, same. Okay, after that we'll make it non-nullable because each user must have a role. Then we'll call it reference. So if you put dot, you will see what are the available option you have, like default, non-null, then primary key and reference. So we need the reference here so that we can refer to role table. The reference, we need like 1 or 2 arguments. First of all, pass a function, and in this function will return role schema dot slack. So this is actually telling you like in the role schema table what field actually is referring this role slack. So this slack column or slack field. Okay, so this is how we create a relationship between these two table, or we can say foreign key relationship. Okay, now in the role schema we will define also the types similar to this. Copy that over here and replace user with role for this infer model from Drizzle ORM. Okay, so we are done with the role schema as well. Now let's define the block schema. Create a file called block.schema.ts, export const block schema MySQL table will call blocks. So this here we will have first of all the ID. For the ID we can use varchar as well as auto increment ID. So for showing you we'll just use auto increment ID. So we'll say int ID and auto increment primary key. Then for the block we will have its title. This will be varchar, call it title, and length be 255, will be non-nullable. Then we will have a slash. So in the URL will be similar like title, and but this should be unique. This slash should be unique. So we'll define an index here. Also in the user table we need to define an index for email as well. So we'll do that. So after that let's define another field called content. This will be also varchar content. The length would be 2000 dot non-nullable. Then we will have a thumbnail. It will be the blog image URL. So varchar thumbnail. So now let's define the length, call it 255, and this is nullable. Or also we can define default URL here. So if you want, you can put it here. You can take image command splash. Let's just say this one, copy image link, put it here. Non-nullable, because if the user will not pass any image, that time we'll use this default image. Okay. So after that thumbnail we'll create another boolean type field called published. We will call it boolean, import it from MySQL core. This will be also non-nullable, and by default we can say published equal true. So default true. You can make it false if you want. And after that we will have views. It will be type integer, and actually it will be the count of the total views of this blog post. Okay, so default would be 0, also non-nullable. After that we can define rating for the blog post, and this will be decimal, call it rating. And here we need to pass two options. Precision is the full length of the number. So let's say for example our decimal number is like 12.5. then so how many character we have now here? So 1 and 2 and 5, so total 3. So the precision is 3 here. And let's say we have like 2.5, that time the precision will be 2. Okay, and the scale is how many character we have after this decimal. So let's say we have 5 to 3, that means we have 3 character after this decimal point, so that time the scale is 3. Okay, but in our case for the rating it will be mostly like 2.5, or let's say 3.5, or let's say 5.0. so this type of rating it will be always. So in that case we will just put here like precision is 2. After that, after decimal point we will have only one character, so scale will be 1, and by default it will be 0.0, and this will be again non-null. We got an error here, the argument type of number is not a string, so we'll just make it string. Okay, so rating is also done. After that we'll created and updated it. So created we can copy from user table. This is similar. So for date time, for SQL, now define the updated at. So it will be similar like this, but with little changes. So here instead of created at, we will call it updated at the SQL. So if we actually keep it this way, then whenever we will change some information here, like let's say we update the content, we update the title, or do whatever changes in the block schema, this updated field we have to manually input also. Okay, but there is a way we can make it automatic. Like whenever we change something in the content, let's say, or in the views or in the ratings, it will automatically update this updated field. Okay, so would like we have in the, if you remember, we have something called update now in the timestamp. So if we make it timestamp updated to, so you can call it default now, you can call it on update now. Okay, so this default now we are getting using current timestamp, and this on update now there is no OA till now in Drizzle, so hopefully they will include it soon. And to work around this issue, we can actually do in this way. So when after this current timestamp, we can say on update current timestamp. So using this SQL syntax, every time we will change something in this block schema table, it will update this updated at field using current timestamp. Okay, so that's the thing. So let's remove this updated to now. So we are done with the updated. After that, so we need to define the author of this block, the user. So let's call it author ID, and if we check the user ID, so type is Barker. So we'll just copy up to this here, we'll call it author ID. We need to make it non-nullable, then we will call reference here, pass a function, and this function will return user schema dot id. So this author ID is referring this inside user schema, this ID. Okay, so our author ID is done, and then we need to actually define some indexes over here on this flag, that this flag is always unique. Okay, also we can pass the index on published as well, because we need to actually mostly query using this published field, like all the blocks which are published or not published. For defining indexes, what you need to do, you need to pass third parameter in this MySQL table. So our first parameter was this block, the name of the table. Second parameter was our definition of the schema, and third parameter would be a function. Okay, and this function will return an object, and here actually we need to define our indexes. So here we will get our block schema. Okay, and from here we will define the indexes. First of all, let's say slack unique index colon, then we will call it unique index, and we will import it. This is a function. Okay, so we'll import it from MySQL core. You can see unique index, this one, and then we will give it a name. We'll give the same name as this one, then we will call on, then we will tell, like here we will define on which column you are creating this unique index. So here we will say from this block schema dot flag. Okay. So this will create the unique index on this flag field. Now let's define a normal index on published. So again we will say published index. We will simply say index here, the unique index, and give it a name, same name. Then we will call it on block schema dot published. So this is how you will define indexes. Now we need to define another index in user table inside email, so that we can avoid duplicate email address. So we'll pass a third argument here as a function. We'll call it user schema. This function will accept this schema. So we'll write it here, and we will return object from here, and we will call it similar to this block slack. We'll call it mail. We'll import the unique index. Here we'll call it user schema email. Okay. So this is how actually you will define the indexes. So our user schema is ready. Our role schema is the role. If you want, you can define another field called created at. It will be easy for you sort the role. So let's just put this created at here. Import datetime in SQL from datetime from MySQL core, SQL from Drizzle ORM. Okay. After that, here in the block, so we'll define the type first. Copy this to rename role block. Import infer model from Drizzle ORM. Fine. We hover on this, you will get all the property of the block. Hover on this, you will get all the property and also some required and non-required property. And in here you can see the ID is non-required because we are using auto incremented ID here. Okay. So we are done with the block, and then we need to create the category schema, category.schema.ts. Copy it from here, everything, paste it here, quick, call it category schema. Call the table name as categories. The categories will have a ID, and we can make it varchar, or let's remove the ID. We don't need the ID. Let's keep the category flag only, and the length we don't need 255. Let's make it 50. Title also 50, and this will be flag will be the primary key. So instead of non-null, let's call it primary key, and primary key is by default non-nullable. Fine. Title is there. We don't need content. We can keep it a category thumbnail if you want. This is fine. And then published we don't need, views we don't need, ratings we don't need, created at we will keep it, created at we don't need, and author ID we don't need. Okay, so this is fine. And do we need an indexes? No, already we have flag with primary key, so we don't need an index also. So category, get category. Let's remove. So this is our categories schema. This is our block schema. So now what you need to do? So we need to define a relationship between a block and category. So one block can have many category, and one category can have many blocks. So this will be a like one many-to-many relationship. So for that, we need a junction table. So let's call it block to category .ts. Okay. Or we can say block category .schema.ts. Here, yeah, export const block to category schema table block to category. First one will be the block, so it will be block ID, and if you check the block table, it's an integer auto implemented integer. So we'll call the same here. This will be block ID. 14 integer will be non-nullable, and for the category it will be category slack. Will again be non-nullable, and here we need to actually define a composite primary key. Okay, so we'll do that using indexes. So define a third parameter here. We'll call it block to category schema. And if you want to know more about this thing, so let's say about this composite schema, you can go to their documentation. Okay, here if you search key, so inside this index and constraint, if you click on indexes, so you'll see this third parameter you are talking about, and then here we can actually define table.name, table.email, so this type of thing. And we can define the foreign key also here using reference, as well as can define the foreign key like inside this third parameter also. Okay, I prefer this way, so I have already shown you. And inside this composite primary key, if you see, so we have a book to authors table. Here we have author ID as well as book ID, and here we can actually create a primary key or combining these two fields. Okay, so let's do that. So here we will say block to category, and this will return an object. Let's call it primary key. Here we will call it primary key, and this is a primary key builder. This here we will pass this to block to category schema dot block ID, then so we're done here. Then we can define the type here, others. Copy that over here. We'll call it block to category. This info model. So we are done with all the schemas. Now we need to define actually relationship. If you are new to my channel, feel free to subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified for new videos. It will help me to grow. Also, it will encourage me to create more videos like this. So see you in the next video.